Hey, welcome to the webinar. Today we're talking about 5 steps to become a nurse expert witness. I'm Latanya Brumfield, if you hadn't figured that out yet. I'm going to be your speaker today. And before I get started, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself and how I started becoming an expert witness. I am a nurse, obviously. I've been a nurse 21 years. I've worked mainly in critical care, ICU, and PACU. The last 15 years, it's been a good mix of both. I started looking for alternative ways to make money as a nurse. I think it's around 2014 after I had dropped out of graduate school for the second time. And I was looking at being a legal nurse consultant. And I took a little small, inexpensive course just to kind of get an idea of what it was. And that's when I learned about nurse expert witness work. And during that period of time, I kind of figured out that probably that would be a better fit for me than a legal nurse consultant. So I kind of did a little research, whatever, didn't find out much more about it than the little bit I learned in that course. So I just kind of put it on the back burner until one day I decided to put on the headline of my LinkedIn where I have like nurse. I decided to put expert witness. So I put that on there. And I would say maybe like a year later, give or take, I actually had a visitor to my inbox. And what it was a recruiting firm that actually recruits expert witnesses for attorneys. And they were looking for somebody with some very specialized clinical background. And I had that both. I had critical care background, recovery background, and I also at the time was working in a woman's hospital in which we were taking care of a lot of perinatal critical care patients, in particular postpartum hemorrhage is what they were looking for. So I actually did an appointment with the attorney, and he just asked some questions about, my expertise, and I answered them. He let me know that he wanted to retain me. Up until the point I actually had that interview on the phone with him, I was in panic mode because I was putting myself out there as an expert witness, and I didn't fully know what I was doing because I hadn't really had any education. So I had to go figure out how to make a fee schedule because that's what they wanted. I had to figure out how much I was actually going to charge. I had to figure out how to like format that on a paper and give it to them. I had to update my resume. There's a lot of things that happened over a 2-day period, so I can get that information to the attorney before I actually interviewed. But long story short, it was a whole lot of hard work just because I was trying to figure out what I was doing as I was doing it. If I had a do-over, I would have done it differently. But this experience allowed me to know that my expertise that I had been sharing with my employer for free was very valuable. And when I was able to bill that client over $5,000 in fees just for me reading the chart, thinking about the chart, giving my verbal opinion, putting that opinion on paper in a structured way, and delivering them a report, there was no looking back after that. It really reformatted my mind and how I viewed myself as a nurse and how I viewed my expertise as a nurse. So that is my background. Since then, that was in 2019. Since then, I've done in excess of 10 cases. I average on average bill, I would say about 3,000, a little bit over 3,000 each on average, some less, some more. I've gone up on my fees, and at some point, I will show y'all my fee schedule so y'all can get an idea of what we're talking about as it comes to fees. But just to learn a little bit more about me, I did actually finish graduate school as a nurse educator, and I'm actually working on my DNP right now. I still do expert witness work. I work part-time in the PACU, and a couple years ago, in the wake of the pandemic, I decided to open up a life coaching firm in which I could just help people realize their dreams, live their best life, do things that they love to do, either in addition to what they're already doing or as a replacement to what they're already doing. And I actually transitioned myself from working as a full-time nurse to working as a part-time nurse and doing things like this, talking to people, educating people, dealing with clients, doing expert witness work, etc. So just to introduce, this is the name of my life coaching firm, Always Up Coaching. And you probably found us on the Nurse Prosperity Playbook, which is our new brand that's specifically for nurses. I'm at heart a nurse. I love my nurses. I love my colleagues. And more than anything, we deserve to thrive. We deserve to do things that we love and be in jobs that we love or create jobs that we love. So that's what this brand is going to focus on, a lot of that type of stuff. So you may have gotten a communication from one of these emails when you registered for the course. Just wanted to make you familiar. So let's just jump right on into it. Now, I take a keep it simple approach when I'm breaking things down. You start with the macro and go to the micro. This is a more of a macro type presentation. I intended to make more detailed slides for y'all, but one of the lovely things about being an expert witness is sometimes you get cases out of nowhere and they need opinions pretty fast. So over the past few days, I didn't want to cancel this event, but I had a lot of work to do. So this will be just a quick overview. I will actually have a recording. So like if you want to take notes or whatever, don't worry about kind of rushing to do it because you will get a recording in your inbox if you registered for the webinar. And I will put a link in the chat if you haven't registered for the webinar, just in case anybody happened to miss it. I'll do that towards the end. I'll put some links there for you. But I talked a little bit about my expert witness experience. I really love it. What type of person would be an ideal expert witness when it comes to personality, things you like? If you like investigating, if you're the type of person who's real nosy and likes to go through charts, you like to read what happened, you like to see what led the patient to their current position, this would be probably something you would love. If you like to fight for the underdog, whether that be because expert witnesses work for plaintiffs and defendants, right? Whether it be for the nurse who did the right thing but's being accused of not doing the right thing, or whether it be for the patient who was the victim of a nurse who didn't do what they were supposed to do. Either way, you get to help people. You just get to help people. My first case that I was talking about earlier, that little $5,000 I got for giving my opinion helped the attorney win a multi-million-dollar settlement for the patient's family, and the patient was actually deceased. So it just makes you feel good to help people to get justice. So if you're that type of person, this would be ideal for you. Also, if you're the type of person who kind of likes the job you do now, because when you work as an expert, you still have to work in that field. You don't have to work full time in that field, but if you're going to assert yourself as an expert, you need to actively work in that field. Ideally, they would like you to have a history of at least 3 years, but some of them do prefer you to have 5 years of experience. But if you're not there yet, don't worry about it because there's things you can do to prepare for when you're at that moment. So the caveat is if you're asserting yourself as an expert in one field, you have to stay within that field in some kind of way. You have to work some routine hours on a unit or in a department. And it's just not, you can be a nurse expert witness in many different nurse jobs. It doesn't have to be a hands-on patient care job necessarily. I'm not familiar with all types of nurse expert witnesses, but if you work a very non-traditional nurse job, definitely you can get with me and I can help you do some research to see if there's a demand for nurse expert witnesses in your field. So let's go to the next slide. And we're going to jump into the steps, the 5 steps. And as I said, we're going to keep it simple. And I'm not going to bombard you with a lot of text on here. It's just going to be steps. And I'll tell you what I mean by each of those steps. And I am a life coach. So the first step is a life coaching one. Some of y'all may roll your eyes to this, but it's the most important step. That's why it's first. And that step is to believe. You have to believe that you have expertise in your field. And I think a lot of us as nurses, because we operate as, quote, subordinates, I hate that word, but that's the best way I can communicate what I'm saying now. We often underestimate the level of our expertise. Very often when people are suing hospitals, they're not suing the hospital, they're suing the hospital because they employed the nurse that did something wrong, right? Or that they think did something wrong. So the most important expert in that case is the nurse. You can have the doctor expert, you can have, radiologists or all these experts, but if they're focusing on something the nurse did or didn't do, they want the nurse. And very often when lawsuits come across, they're not just focusing on one thing. They're catching all the doctors, they're catching all the hospitals if it was more than one involved. So there's often in these million-dollar lawsuits, multi-million-dollar lawsuits, multiple experts involved. So you got to believe in yourself. You got to have a certain level of confidence in what you do. Like to tell people, if you're the type of person who's always thinking about what you do as you do it, you're always questioning why you do certain things. You typically, when you do things, you know why you're doing it. You always have a rationale for everything you do, and that's how I educate. When I'm orienting new nurses or educating students, I'll say always have a rationale for everything you do, even if it's just something like giving somebody a glass of water. What is your rationale for doing that? If you always have thoughts behind everything you do with a patient, first of all, you'll be protected from litigation, but also you'll be able to identify when other people are not doing the right thing, or when they are doing the right thing. You'll be able to define those things. So you really need to wrap your brain around the fact that you are an expert. Anybody who's worked in the same field for, a period of years and had enough clientele during that period of time, you're an expert. You're an expert. You may not have really thought about it, but if you start thinking about what you do and why you do things, we get very robotic. And I use the glass of water just because we don't think about the rationale when we give the patient a glass of water, right? We don't think about the rationale, but we have one, right? So if you're the type of person who can identify a rationale for everything you do within the context of your specialty and your specialty, that's all you need to be an expert. That's all you need. That's literally all you need. Everything else are just skills that you can acquire. That's it. So step 2, you got to make others believe. So this is where you start putting yourself out there as an expert. And this could take the form of many different things. It could take the form of something as simple as what I did, which was just put expert on my LinkedIn profile, and that eventually attracted a client. It could also take the form of something else I did, is that firm that found me, they actually have a free portal in which you can create a profile. And on that profile, you can put, your CV, your fee schedule, and all the things, and it's free. Those are the only 2 ways I get clients: LinkedIn and that one portal that's absolutely free. You can do other things to market yourself as an expert witness. I have not done them yet just because I have a lot of different things that I do. If I was only doing bedside work and expert witness work, I'd probably do a lot more. And I won't go into all the details, but you could build a website. You can actually, there's other expert witness, what do you call them? Registries in which you could sign up and put a profile on. There's most of them are paid, however. I don't choose to pay because I have enough of a flow of cases that I'm satisfied with the number of cases I get. So that's where you're making other people believe. Putting your LinkedIn profile in such a way, and not just putting expert on there, but also putting all the details and the skills on your CV, having your CV uploaded, saying all the other things you do, making sure that your education is on your CV profile. Any continuing education you do within your specialty needs to be on your profile. You need to have somebody be able to roll up to that profile and look at your profile and say, check, 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 check. Okay, this person has everything we need. Let's message her. Let's message him. So that's making others believe. Just putting yourself out there, giving yourself credit where credit's due. Don't be humble. Put everything out there that would relate to what your expertise is, that would give you more credibility for being an expert. Now, this part actually is the minimal part, but it takes time. And that's learning the things. This is the part that I struggled with because I was crunched for time when I had that first case. And that's learning how to, interact with an attorney, learning how to create things like fee schedules, learning how to create an invoice, learning how to succinctly offer your opinion, learning how to organize records when they send you medical records, all those little things. And also learning, because you're going to get charts as an expert witness that is loaded with errors. Like, oh, you could nitpick nurses forever. I mean, somebody can go on my chart as expert witness and nitpick things. But the only things that matter are the things that contributed to the adverse outcome of the patient. So if you're either defending the nurse or possibly testifying against the nurse, you need to be able to go in that chart, read all the things. And when I say all the things, sometimes I get in excess of 1,000 pages of medical records, which is great because I get to bill for the time where I'm trying to sort through that stuff and figure out what's important. But it also can get tedious as well. But you need to be able to go through and say, okay, well, she gave that pain medicine 5 minutes early. That's not important. But she failed to change the dressing 3 days in a row and the patient got an infection. That is important. So when I say learning all the things, it's all the things specific to being a nurse expert witness. And what you'll find is it's either a whole bunch of legal stuff, business related stuff that you're just not going to know, you have to learn. And the other side is your nursing knowledge and your expertise that you already know, but you just have to refine that knowledge and be able to decipher when you look at the chart what's important and what's not. Some people that's going to become natural. A lot of that is going to come from the actual case because they're going to give you an overview of the case before you look in the chart. So you'll kind of know what the allegations are, and that will help guide you when you're looking. So that's not as big of a deal. The bigger deal is the more so the legal stuff, the paperwork, running your business, billing, etc. So this is the thing that takes the longest, but it's also the most straightforward. It's not that hard to do. Some might say that developing the confidence to speak to an attorney when you have no experience whatsoever would be the hardest thing. Some might say that putting yourself out there as an expert when you've only been in your field 3 years might be a difficult thing too. But when it comes to making other people believe, just to back up a little bit, sometimes all you need is that experience, that solid 3 years in the right type of hospital in which they knew you got good experience in that 3 years. That's all you need, really. But it helps to have certifications in your field if there's one that exists. It helps to maybe have advanced education. It also helps to possibly have, a situation in which maybe you went to a small little conference and maybe the conference may have just been in your hospital, or maybe you're just teaching a group of new employees certain things about your unit. You can put that kind of stuff on your CV/resume, and that just further bolsters what you have. And part of learning the things is learning all those little things that you want to do over time to make yourself more credible. So the next step is to organize and systemize. You want to have templates for things. So templates for your invoices, templates, you're going to have a template for your fee schedule because guess what? Your fees are going to go up. Once you realize you could do this and you're good at it, you're going to want to raise your fees. And basically you're going to have it. You're just going to edit it. You're going to keep that Word document where you can edit it easily, but you only submit when it comes to submitting your fee schedule, you're only going to submit a PDF document because you don't want somebody to edit your fee schedule after the fact. So you're only going to submit a PDF. So I send PDFs to the clients, but I keep my Word document because I want to be able to change those fees whenever I'm ready. So I promised you earlier I was going to show you my fee schedule. So I'm going to do that right now. So this is my fee schedule. So as a nurse expert witness, you get to collect a retainer just like the attorney does. And my retainer is 4 hours of work because almost no matter how small a chart is, you're either going to be reading the chart or thinking about the chart and developing your opinion in your head. At least 4 hours. Even if it's 30 pages, we're going to think about it for 4 hours, right? Just because we want to be certain. But there has been one time where I was planning to credit the client because there was not enough to bill for 4 hours. But most of the time, after you give your initial verbal opinion, there is some follow-up work involved in which you will end up using up the retainer. So $700 before I even do any work. So if they want to send me the medical records the day I talk to them and they decide they want to retain me as an expert witness, they could email me those documents the first day. But I'm not going to do any kind of work until I receive my check in the mail. And they typically mail checks. I've been trying to get some attorneys to pay other ways because it's quicker, but they mail checks. And then what happens is you have to bring it to the bank, and the bank holds it at least an entire week because it's a check from an attorney. So they will mail you your check. And most of them, if they have a timeline, they'll be smart and they'll overnight it to you. So a lot of times you'll have your check within like 2 days. So my base rate right now is $175 an hour, and that's anytime I do anything related to the case, whether it's sorting, printing out the medical records if I want to print them out, organizing the medical records, reading the medical records, thinking about what I read in the medical records, anytime I talk to them on the phone, anytime I am driving to the Office Depot to print out 1,000 sheets of medical records. All my time related to that case is billed at $175 per hour. Now, if they need rush work, this is the charge for rush work, just because I have to set everything else in my life to the side, possibly to read maybe 900 pages of medical records, right? So my time is valuable, and you're going to pay for access to me in a rush fashion. So it varies what I charge for that. This is my deposition fee right here. And I will say what people charge is regional. I started out with a suggestion from actually the firm that found me of how much I should charge based on my region, but I've gone up since then based on what I feel my value is as I get more and more experienced at it. So my initial charge was $150 an hour base, but now it's gone up to 175. And I've been very, very busy over the last 3 months. So I'm probably going to raise my fee again, probably next month, and raise it to 200, my base fee. And I'll just shift every time I raise it about $25, and I shift everything else here by $25, and I shift this to 4 hours times my base rate. And you also get to bill for expenses. So any travel time, if you have to go out of state, most expert witness work is not going to take place in your home state because they want to avoid any potential for conflict of interest. You don't want to be testifying against someone you used to work with or for someone you used to work with. It increases the chances of bias, obviously. So any time you spend traveling, if you have to go get deposed in the state that the thing is, or if you're testifying in the state. And I will say most of these cases will settle without deposition or testimony. Out of 10 plus cases, I've only been deposed once, and I've never testified because most attorneys will not take a case unless it's a very strong case. So most of them will settle. So if you're nervous about appearing in court, eventually it probably will happen if you continue to do it, but it's not going to be every single case you're going to be on the stand testifying and being cross-examined. So anytime you're waiting to go to trial, I have a 4-hour minimum deposition and trial. So my one deposition I did was only like 2 hours, but I had a 4-hour minimum, so they got billed for the 4-hour minimum. And then here's a little policies or whatever. Typically, I have a thing where people could sign it if I'm meeting with them in person, but almost all of the communication is via virtual phone, telephone, or maybe Zoom sometimes. But them receiving it in the email is them acknowledging they know what my fees are and they know what my policies are. So the minute they cut that deposition check, they're agreeing to, not the deposition check, I'm sorry, the retainer check. They're agreeing, they've seen this, they're saying that they've seen this, and they're aware of my policies. So that is the fee schedule. So having a template for reports, if you have to write a report, having a template for affidavits, if you have to do affidavits, most of the time you'll talk with an attorney over the phone and they'll draft the affidavit for you. I've never had to do one, but they'll make sure it's in legalese, so to speak. And they'll just send it to you. You'll confirm that that's what you believe on your affidavit, and you'll bring it locally to your notary public, get it notarized. You're going to bill for your time going to the notary. You're going to bill for the cost of notary, and you're going to bill for the time you scan that document on and email it to them, and you're going to bill for the postage when you send them the original. So organize and systemize. Have a way that you're going to store any files, patient care files that you download. Have a secure way to store them and an easy way to access them and an easy way to organize them. Everybody can create their own systems. I have my own systems that have worked really well for me. So that's step 4. And then step 5 is cashing checks. That's it. Those are the steps. Those are the steps distilled down into 5 simple steps. So what will motivate you to continue to want to do this is cashing a check, because you're going to be like, man, I just read a chart, told somebody what I thought about the chart. Maybe write a report, and you don't always have to write reports. Like, some people don't like to write, but if you have a good template, writing reports is easy because it's very straightforward. You're not citing anything in APA format. You're not adding references, but there are times when you will reference certain documents. So very often in my cases, I reference the ANA Code of Ethics, because a lot of times when people are doing the wrong thing about patients, they're violating the Code of Ethics. So I reference that. Some people will, if you have a standard of care, like an organization that produces standards of care for your unit, you will reference that as well. And this goes in the learn category. You got to learn, what you do, and there's a standard for it. Every unit, every department, every environment has some kind of organization that produces some type of standard for the minimal level of care in that environment. So like, I am actively working in PACU now, so I'm only taking PACU cases. For a while, I was taking PACU and ICU, but ASPAN, American Society of Peri-Anesthesia Nurses, they have a standard of care for PACU care or peri-anesthesia care. So I might reference that. So typically, those are the only types of documents you'll reference. Occasionally, you may need to reference a textbook, but it'll be like a nursing fundamentals textbook. It's nothing so high level to where you have to go seek out and search the library and get articles or such. But there may be a time you want to, just so you can confirm, first of all, your opinion, but also have evidence to say, like, here, this is what it says. It's backing up what my opinion is of how this person should have cared for this patient. So that's not typically always needed. Sometimes the expert opinion alone is enough, but sometimes when there's some gray areas, you may want to get extra references. So this is the moment where I am going to tell you that, remember this part here where we're at learn, which I said was the biggest part. One of the things I am offering as a part of what we do at Nurse Prosperity Playbook is I am offering an expert witness course. So I'm just going to take a moment to share that with y'all. Let me share the new screen. So this is our first course that we're offering, and it's just going to tell you all those little things that I had to struggle to learn myself. And with my first case, it's distilled down to a very succinct 12-week course in which we tell you all the things you need to know, all the ways you need to organize, all the ways to set yourself up to just get out there, be confident and successful as expert witness. So it's a 12-week course. Each week there's going to be a pre-recorded video that's released. The first cohort starts on Monday, and we're going to have subsequent cohorts start the first Monday of every month until I either feel I don't need to do it every month, or I haven't figured out. We're going to figure it out as we go. But the first cohort starts Monday. I already have 6 people enrolled in that course. I'm going to take up to 10. But these are the things you're going to learn: understanding the role of expert witness, recognizing what the attorneys seek from you, accurately defining your expertise, crafting your CV to be a compelling, convincing, make them believe, as in step 2 type CV, how to appeal to prospective clients, attracting new clients, increasing case inquiries, putting yourself out there in the places where you can be seen, boosting repeat business. More recently, I had a client that, I had a new case on, and I guess she was so impressed about the first impression that 2 weeks later, it's like, hey, we got this other case. Can you take that too? Right? So how do you make that good first impression, that confident first impression, to where they're going to go search through their other cases and see if they can go ahead and retain you for their other cases? how to secure new cases, how to minimize non-billable hours. That means hours you spend doing things that you're not billing for. How to make sure you're billing for everything you should be. How to set and collect fees, all the money things. How to keep yourself from out of trouble legally, right? Because if you got to make sure everything you're saying on the stand is true and you're saying it in the right way. So how do you do that? How do you write a report? How can you present yourself appropriately when you're being deposed or you're giving trial testimony? And as a little bonus, because one of my new hobbies is using AI to make life easier, I'm going to show students how to use AI to give them save a lot of time when it comes to getting themselves to this point in which they can confidently present themselves as an expert witness. So the offer for the June cohort is getting ready to end. So, okay, let me go through some of this other stuff and then I will tell y'all how much it costs. So the course content, I just kind of bullet pointed a whole bunch of things, but basically you're going to get access to the videos for at least a year, well, lifetime, but guaranteed to be at least a year. You're going to get PDF notes from the videos. You're going to get at the end, you're going to get it in one big workbook that can be printed as like a little booklet at like Office Depot or something that you put on your shelf to reference later. We're also going to every other week during the cohort have a live group coaching session in which I do question and answer. I clarify. I make sure that everybody's understanding the content, and I actually help with like stuff like writing your CV or whatever. We're actually going to have discussion board. We're going to have a discussion area of the site of the course cohort, and once you graduate, there's going to be a separate little networking area that I will let y'all join, so you can keep in touch with people in the class without actively being engaged in the course per se. The bonuses are I'm going to give you personalized feedback on your CV and your LinkedIn profile, one-on-one. I'm going to give you feedback on a report that you do in the future within 2 years of taking the course. So that first time you have to author a report, I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you and make sure you present yourself the first time the right way. Lifetime access to the networking. It's going to be a little area and it may move over time. Lifetime is a long time. So I can't commit to one particular platform to do the networking. And then I may have to switch later, right? Everybody gets 1 hour of one-on-one coaching via Zoom upon signing their first case. And I say upon signing the first case is because a lot of stuff is going to happen along the way, and your first case may not be right after you finish the course. It might be during the course because there's going to be some things we do that you're going to put yourself right out there right away, even if you're not ready, right? The sooner the better. The sooner you put yourself out there as an expert, the more you can wrap your mind around it and you can get the most important thing done. And that's number one, believing in yourself. So you may get your first case during the course, but whenever that first case is, I'm going to talk to you on the phone an hour one-on-one and tell you, hey, this is what you should be looking for in this chart. You're going to tell me the scenario without breaking confidentiality. And I'm going to tell you the things you probably should be looking for, the things that are most important. And we're just going to discuss it because you're going to all of a sudden have all these questions that you never thought of before when you get that first case. And I'm going to have a bonus jumpstart mini course, and I'm going to show you how I have organized all of my businesses, not just the expert witness work, on using Google Suites, which is free, right? And we're going to talk a little bit about, doing an LLC and a little bit of very basic tax stuff. So until you start making the money and want to get to an accountant, you'll know how to start doing things the right way out the gate. So we offer a money back guarantee 30 days. After 30 days, if you're not satisfied with the course, and that's 30 days after the beginning of your cohort, 100% refund, no questions asked, none. So you might be asking, who else is doing this? Let me go shop around and see who else is offering these type of courses. So the short answer is nobody, really. Nobody's offering a course like this in which is specifically for nurses who want to be expert witnesses. There are expert witness courses that are more general, not even general to medical. They're just general to expert witnessing in general. And that's the closest comparison I could find. Other courses that would be related would be like a legal nurse consulting course. some of them kind of give you what you need to kind of halfway get started, but they don't give you everything you need. So the closest comparison I could find is an organization called Seek, and they're for expert witnesses of all types, not just medical. And they offer 4 separate courses that can give you kind of what I'm offering in this course. Each of their courses are $13.95. It's 4 of them for a total of $55.80. I'm going to be offering my course at a retail price of $1,500, but for the first 3 cohorts in June, July, and August, the course will only be $750. And if you use a coupon code this month and the coupon code is Nurse Love, you can get an additional $150 off. So the course will only cost $600. I do offer payment plans through the Think If It platform, which is my course platform where our course will be. Just a little write up about me. I have testimonials here from people I've coached before. These people haven't taken my class, but they've been educated by me and coached by me. So people want to hear a little bit about me as a person and as an educator, a coach, or a motivator. So of course here, I'm going to put this link in the chat in a second. And some question and answer stuff that, questions that may come up, which I'm going to answer questions in a couple seconds. So yeah, this actually says 23 hours left, and that's for anybody who rolls up to the course for the discount. But if you're on this webinar now, this 50% off discount plus the Nurse Love coupon code will be extended all the way to the day before the course starts, which is Sunday, this coming Sunday. Open it up for questions. Have any questions? Being an expert witness in general or about my course, if you're interested in the course. One of the things I will offer in the course as well is I will share with you my templates. I have obviously my fee schedule template, my CV template, my report, expert witness report template, but any templates I have, I'm going to share with you as well. And you'll have access to that maybe I'll change it later. You'll have access to live files all times.
Hello, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. My name is Anita.
Hi, Anita.
Thank you for putting this together. It's very, very informative. I'm good. I'm very much interested in the course now because I'm also doing in the DMP program. But this is right up my alley. Before I became a nurse, I was a paralegal like for 8 years.
Oh,
So this is pretty. Oh yeah, we have and so we're gonna have to talk off. Yeah, we're gonna have to talk offline about this.
absolutely.
But I would like to put down a deposit so when I'm ready to take the course, it'll be available to me because I'm very much interested.
So let me show you one thing because they have actually these payment plan things that you could pay over time. And so like if you wanted to do it in August or whatever, I'm just fast forwarding. When you enroll, there's the Afterpay, the Affirm, and the Klarna that you can use. And different ones have different payment schedules, but I think one is like over 3 months, one is over like every 2 weeks. But if you wanted to kind of start slowly paying it for it that way, you could. Which I suggest just pick the farthest course. But if you're interested, I would say go ahead and enroll in the August cohort, which is the furthest one out.
Right.
And maybe do it over a payment plan so you can lock in the $600.
Right.
And that's the $750 plus the actual Nurse Love.
Okay.
And what we'll do is when we get to August, if you're like, I can't do this, I'll just put off your enrollment.
Yeah, but I'm really interested. I worked for an investigative company with attorneys. We did a lot of government projects. This is right up my alley. And I actually took a legal nurse consultant course and it just didn't, turn out the way that I wanted it to be. So I just kind of brushed it under the rug. But now that you bringing this up with expert witnesses and, being an expert witness is very interesting.
I like it because I'm one of the rare people who, and I'm super transparent. I dropped out of CRNA school and MP school. Finally got my MS in education. Went to get my DNP. Did a year, dropped out.
And I got my master's in nursing education too.
I actually like bedside work, but I'm at the point in my career where I can't tolerate doing it full time. Just because you get to that point in your career where like you start paying too much attention to the broken system, and you just can't be around it all the time. You just can't. So I still like that one-on-one patient care thing, but I also know that that maybe not be my thing for the next 20 years,
Right.
right? Or hopefully not that long of nursing, but so that's why I'm doing other things as well. And that's why I also trying to share this knowledge now while it's fresh from me because I'm trying to transition out of bedside care within the next 5 years.
Of
Uh,
course. Yeah.
so,
I left the bedside a long time ago,
mm,
of like 3 years ago. I'm doing case management now, but
oh yeah,
that's not something that I even want to do long term. You want to have your own business, you know?
yeah, yeah. And most of what I coach my life coaching clients, because when people come to you, most of the time, if they come to a life coach, they're already motivated, whatever, but they're struggling in one way.
Right.
And so they're either struggling because they're trying to change jobs, they hate their job, they want to do
Hmm.
something different, or they're struggling financially. And for both of those answers, I always tell people entrepreneurship, entrepreneurship, entrepreneurship. Because once
Right.
you figure out a formula, figure out what you want to do, what you like to do, and just do it the right way, there's no turning back, no turning back. One of my big
Right.
moments around the same moment of when I got my first expert witness case was I ran a luxury handbag business for a while in which I was
Okay.
like flipping handbags from Japan, vintage handbags from Japan on Poshmark.
Hmm.
During a short period of time, I made a lot of money. I hustled. I
Right.
worked really hard, which told me like, okay, it opened my eyes to just having, like you just need to know what's going to make the profit and you run with it, right? But also
Right.
a lot of hands-on work, a lot of busy work. It was I worked, it was equivalent to nursing work, right? But it was
Hmm.
just funner because I could do it at my house. So between those two things, that was really what transitioned my mindset to be like, wait, not I can do this thing. And a lot of what we do as nurses make us ideal entrepreneurs. First of all, we
Right.
get through nursing school, which takes resilience, grit, stamina, all the things you have to have as an entrepreneur. But also, we know how to like plan. We know
Right.
how to assess and plan, and that's what a lot of entrepreneurship is. You got an idea, it's a good idea, but then you're going back and forth, like tweaking things, right? The care plans
Right.
per se. But so it makes it very easy for us to be entrepreneurs. And that's why so many people after the COVID pandemic, they went and did the travel and came home with all the bank and they just opened businesses. Well, I'm excited about helping people make extra money as nurses. And
Right.
something about being an expert witness, really, you start to feel your power. You start to feel your
Right.
expertise, you know. But yeah.
So, thank you for attending the webinar. I hope you found value in it and you have enough to get started on your own. Or otherwise, I hope you consider purchasing our course. I'd be happy to see you there. Feel free to email me with any questions you have.